Welcome to the Mount Shasta Weekly Zohar Study Group, and tonight we celebrate Shavuot. Hey, Shavuot is a very powerful day, definitely not another Jewish holiday, not another traditional holiday. We're going to learn about the secret behind this cosmic event, and what's the meaning and what's the importance of that. I'm going to explain that in a bit. But before I start the study, I would like to first of all talk about our mission statement. The purpose of the study of the Kabbalah and the Zohar is to remove pain and suffering from the world, and the reason we are sharing this profound wisdom, so we can do our share to remove pain and suffering from our own lives and also from the lives of others. And when we talk about removing pain and suffering from the world, that includes humans and non-humans, which means animals. And we are strongly advocating, and we keep talking about this each and every week, that huge portion of the study is to remove the pain and suffering from animals from our planet. To put in more simple terms, to stop abusing animals and stop eating them and killing them and make them suffer, because animals are sentient beings, and they suffer and they have families, they form relationship, they feel pain. As long as humanity will continue harming humans and non-humans, we are going to be still very far away from living up our potential. So I really hope that this teaching, excuse me?
It's okay.
So I really hope that this teaching will inspire you, if you have not yet so far been inspired, to consider moving to plant-based nutrition with the most amazing and delicious food, and there is no really lack of nutrients and anything you can desire. So we are advocating for plant-based nutrition from a place of not because it's hip and it's fab and it looks good, but because we would like to do our share to remove the pain and suffering of humans and non-humans, animals included, from to bring them to love and peace and enjoyment from this reality.
Amen.
So, amen. So let's start with our study today. So the name of the portion of today is called Naso. Naso means in Hebrew to raise. To raise what? To raise the head. And we're going to talk about the Zohar teaching, what is the meaning of raising the head, which is more going to be put in more simple terms, to raise our awareness, to raise our thought. I'm going to talk about it in a bit. So, talk about the portion of the week. I want to first talk about Shavuot, what Shavuot is about. For those of you who have been following our study since whenever you joined the Zohar studies, the last 50 days that actually end today, those 50 days are known as the counting of the Omer. The counting of the Omer started the day after Pesach, Passover. We know that we don't and you're not watching it, you're missing the whole show. Nevertheless, the show is happening anyway. The same thing is happening with the universe. Energetic fluctuations, transmissions, downloads are always happening, and the whole point of Kabbalah is to have a more clear map of the cosmic forces that are happening, not necessarily to be perceived with our physical senses, but nevertheless, the whole point to tap into this wisdom, so we have a more clear view of those forces, those energetic fluctuations. And just to recap what we've been studying that have to do with Pesach and what does have to do with Shavuot, I would like to go to this little diagram that I have. This diagram shows that when we spoke about Pesach started at the middle, at the full moon of the month of Aries. You know, the month of Aries is the first sign of those three signs of the season of the spring. Now, when we talk about seasons, we're not talking about meteorology, we're not talking about weather. We're talking about four basic elements of energy that are pertaining to this reality. So we know, I'm not going to repeat all the explanation, you can refer to our previous classes, but the Yud represents, from the Yud Kevavke, represents the season of the spring, which have to do with the element of fire. The Hey, which represents or symbolizes, or actually more attributes, the season of the summer, it has to do with the energy of water. And we know that the summer is, the three astrological signs that have to do with the summer are Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And we just entered Gemini, which is the third astrological sign and the last sign of the season of the spring. Then we have the fall, etc. I'm not going to repeat those, but these are right now more relevant to our current study, because those 50 days that we have been following and doing very, very intense work for those of you who are actually paying attention to what happens in your own personal lives, if you're aware of different opportunities that the universe is showing you for the purpose of refinement. Okay, this is so whatever challenges you've been going through, and if you've been following those teachings, you can see those challenges as opportunity for refinement. Refinement of what? Refining your vessel as a human being. So that's the whole purpose of we actually talking about those 50 days, because in those 50 days there was a very particular process of refinement that started at the middle or the full moon of Aries and actually ended tonight, which is the Shavuot. Shavuot means in Hebrew weeks, and we counted 7 weeks because Pesach is 1 day plus 7 multiplied by 7. These are 49 days. So 49 days plus 1 is 50. Now we know the number 50 in Kabbalah represents many different things, but the most relevant to our study, 50 represents there are 50 gates of purity and there are 50 gates of impurity. So on Passover there was a certain energetic download that if you tap into that you could receive that download, and the purpose of that download is to give you a glimpse what it means to be a liberated human being, what it means to be free. Free from what? Free from the energy of death. Now we're not just talking about physical immortality. Freedom from the energy of death, it means liberation from the consciousness of limitation, because death in Kabbalah, it means limitation. Going back to the purpose of our creation as human beings, we've been created to resemble Source. That's why Adam or Adam in Hebrew, it comes from the word Adameh, means to resemble. To resemble what? To resemble Source. So by us, if we were connected on that particular night or 24-hour period of time on the full moon of Aries to the energy of the Yud, which is represents the Sphira of Chokhmah. So we know those, I'm not going to go into the Sphirot, but we know that those Sphirot, they're pertaining to very, very high levels that are part of our blueprint. So counting of those 49 days, it helps us, and each and every those days we were counting a certain attribute, a certain level that helps us to refine ourselves. So if you've been doing the work, you've been following the classes, you've been investing some time to study, you actually earned something, or you made some work you made some effort to connect to that energy of immortality or that energy of freedom of death. Now, I'm not saying that right now you are an immortal being and you will never die. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it's not a possibility, but this is not the point of what I'm discussing here. What I'm discussing here is the understanding that on Pesach we received the download. You could get a glimpse what it means to be free from the energy of death, free from the energy of limitation, because by essence each and every one of us were unlimited beings, because we occupy a physical body and we perceive this 1% reality at what appears to be a limitation. This is not the nature of reality. So on Pesach we received this download, and then for 49 days it was gone, or actually the next day after Pesach that energy of the connection to the endless disappeared. Why disappeared? It was given to us so we can taste it, so we can know what it feels to be, or actually it's more of a reminder for us to be what it means to be an endless or limitless being. Like the movie Limitless, the protagonist actually is taking a pill that is removing all the limitation from the mind. So it's actually a brilliant movie, because in the movie Limitless it gives you a glimpse using a third-party device to connect to what it means to be a limitless. So the wisdom of Kabbalah is the pill, but you're not going to be addicted to any big pharmaceutical company to be limitless.
Well, it's good addiction anyway.
It is a good addiction, yeah. So the whole point of spending the energy, the effort of after Pesach for those 49 days is to refine or to remove the limitations from your awareness, to remind you what it means to be a limitless being. We're going to talk about more deeper about the attributes of what it means to be limitless. So whatever effort you put in those 49 days, these are the rewards you're going to receive. It depends on your effort. And if you didn't put effort, you can do it from today or from next year, whenever you're ready. But nevertheless, the process continues, and I hope that this explanation makes some sense for you. Now, again, in traditional Judaism or traditional Jewish religion, the holiday of Shavuot is celebrated because the Israelites received the Torah in Mount Sinai. Now, we know in Kabbalah that we never ever commemorate any particular day based on a historical event. It's the opposite. Historical event takes place because there's something cosmic happening in the universe. In other words, the receiving of the Torah on Mount Sinai is the effect. So today we want to learn what was the cause and why the receiving of the Torah actually happened on that particular time in the month of Gemini. Okay, so this is what we're going to discuss. Now let's talk about a little bit about understanding of the energy of the month of Gemini according to Kabbalah and how that pertains to what we're talking today about the receiving of the Torah. Now, in Kabbalah we know that there are two letters that control each and every constellation, each astrological sign. It's made of two words. We have the letter Resh that controls, actually created the planet of Mercury. Okay. Then we have the letter Zayin, which is controlling the sign of Gemini. So we have Resh and Zayin, that also in Hebrew means Raz. Raz means sod in Hebrew. Okay. Now, the letter Resh, the first letter, it literally means in Hebrew poor or deprived. It also means it's an expression of lack. When we say about the word Rash in Hebrew, it means there's a great lack. There's a depravity or depravity. I don't know the word, the pronunciation, but deprived of something. That's a lack. So that sound may be very negative. There's actually a very positive aspect to that. The letter Zayin, the second letter that controls Gemini. Letter Zayin in Hebrew, first of all, is the seventh letter of the Hebrew alphabet, but also Zayin means a weapon. So one hand we have poverty, we have something, we are deprived of something, there's lack, and there's a weapon. And how these two are going to connect, that's what we're going to learn today. Like the poverty or the consciousness of being in a state of lack is actually a very powerful weapon. Okay? So, the question that, some of the questions we want to ask is how those, like we said, how those two things relate to Shavuot, and why Shavuot takes place in this month. This is what we want to learn right now. Now, let's talk about physical reality, where we live right now, what we perceive as what we call by the Kabbalah the 1% reality, what we perceive with our 5 or even 6 sense. What we think that's the composing the entire reality. What we think on a subjective level, okay, this is the reality. Okay? Now, what's this reality? In this reality, if you want to receive something, you need to have a vessel for it. A vessel means a container. Like if I want to have flowers on this table, I need to have a vase. The vase is the container in the most simple way. Another example. If you want to breathe, you first have to empty your lungs. Okay? You empty the lungs and then you can actually receive the sustenance of air. And everything in this reality, it exists around in this principle. Everything that we want to receive, if you want great wealth, you need to have lack of wealth. Otherwise, if you have wealth, how can you receive the wealth? Unless you have it. You can always receive more, but even for more, it means that you don't have that which you desire to receive. Does it make sense? Okay, now even if I have $1 billion, I want $10 billion, it means I'm lacking $9 billion. So that lack is what creates the space to receive this abundance. And that brings a question or some kind of a contemplation that this reality might seem like a paradox. And paradox is one of the attributes of the energy of Gemini. It's not a bad thing, and we'll learn how to reconcile this paradox. We talk a lot about different paradoxes in Kabbalah, or what may appear as a paradox. Okay? Now, our rational mind constantly says, I am. This is the ego-based thought. And we say that the I am, that when you wake up in the morning and you look at your mirror and say, I am, you identify with a certain physical attributes. Hair color, eye color, skin color, gender, race, age, all those different things. These are real things, but these are not the entire reality. And they actually, in some circles, they're called illusion. But nevertheless, we identify with them, or we think, okay, this is who we are, and that's what we call the lower I am, or the lower self. Now, And when we identify with those things, and we think, okay, this is our perception of our identity, and this is what we think who we are, there's very, very little room for something new and something bigger to come into our reality. Okay, I'm going to talk about that, creating that space deeper, because we spoke about it last week. We spoke about the portion of Bamidbar, which means the desert. When we spoke about that, the desert is a consciousness of lack. And we know that when we talk about the Israelites going to the desert, it means Yeshar El means the alignment of our desire, how we go through a place of emptying ourselves so we can receive the water, which is the wisdom. Okay, so the desert is one aspect of it, and there's going to be another layer to that. So when we identify with that certain I am, or there's certain identity that we think we are, our profession, our age, and all those different aspects, there's very little room for more to come into our reality, because we associate ourselves with something very limited. Okay? And we're talking about the theme of this day today is the energy of immortality. And I'm not just talking about the physical immortality, it's the energy of limitless mind, limitless awareness. Okay? That's very, very important. That's a very powerful seed level that I hope that we all can plant in our consciousness today, to ask to remove the limitations of who we think we are and what we're capable to be or to do in this reality. And there's many reasons for those limitations, which we talk about in many different angles in our classes. But just connect to the aspect of removing those limitations, removing that that identification with your limited self, because it's very limited, it's super limited. Now, like we said, the letter Resh, Resh means poor. It means there is lack. So when we talk about the awareness of the Resh in that month that we talk about, the month of Gemini, it represents that in this month there's very strong energy that we can connect to the awareness of emptying ourselves from that false identity. That's very, very important key to what I'm going to explain next. Now, if you learn, and that's a really skill, it's a practice that we constantly learn in Kabbalah, if you learn how to consider yourself poor, poor, even if you have billions of dollars, which means, what do you mean I'm poor? I have billions of dollars. But what we learn in Kabbalah is, learn to make yourself poor when you know that without the support of the light force of Creator, you are nothing. Like I said a few weeks ago, multi-billionaire David Rockefeller died he died at the age of 100 and something. The day before he died, he had billions of dollars. I don't know how many billions. The next day when he passed, nothing was left with him. What sustained him was not his money, because if it was his money, he could stay alive for many more years. If some people, they translate time is money. So if time really money, he could buy himself many more years, but it's not the case. So what sustained him is not the money. Why is this realization is super important? Because we may feel in our life in a place like you have it all. You have the fame, you have the social status, you have whatever those things that you think you have. They're so fulfilling, and I'm not saying they're not fulfilling, but the ratio we're talking about, that consciousness of poverty, it's not poverty of resources or poverty of talents, poverty of beauty, of fame, whatever, is that always remember what sustains you.
Life force.
The life force is the result, but who sustains that life force? Source. Source, creator. So this month we have the extra boost from the universe to create that vessel of realization that we are nothing, really nothing, without that life force of creator. This is really important to understand, because what do you mean I'm nothing? How dare you say that, right? Some people might say that.
It's humbling, just being
humble. It's very important humbling, yeah. It's very important humbling to be in that state of mind. And this is the month we are actually reminded of that, in the month of Gemini. And we're going to learn why the receiving of the Torah is actually happening in this month, and not in other month. Now, this consciousness is what we receive in the month of Gemini. The Resh and design, the poverty, and the weapon, which means
Raz.
Raz. It means the secret. Yeah, we're going to learn about the secret. But Raz, when we learn about this is the poverty mind, this is the weapon which means the poverty mind is the weapon. Have that ability, or that even a habit. You wake up in the morning and you say, wow, I have all those great things, but without life force, the sustenance of life force of creator, I'm nothing. Nothing really. So this month is a good practice to connect to that, because when you empty yourself from that ego, you think that you take yourself all the credibility, and you should. It's good to give yourself credit for what you do, but it's more important to empty yourself from those entitlements and to remind all of us, where that life force of creator is coming from. And when we empty ourselves, that's when we can really receive the real sustenance, which is beyond the things that we attribute in physicality, the money, social status, all those things, which are wonderful things. But we're talking about something beyond that. Okay? A couple of things that now again, when we learn about cause and effect, now we understand what happened on Mount Sinai is the effect. It's not the cause why we are actually talking about, or why we are commemorating the day of Shavuot today, not because of the physical event that happened on Mount Sinai, but because of the cosmic opportunity that presents itself in this month. Energetically.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was already there, so that's why.
It was already there, and we're tapping into that with the understanding. So the Mount Sinai, the receiving of the Torah, again, receiving of the Torah means receiving of the guidance, receiving of the instruction. And we're going to have...
Yeah.
Huh?
It's the same that when people say Jerusalem, it's a holy city, it's not holy city because of its Jerusalem. Jerusalem had been built in that area because that area was already energetically holy.
Exactly. There's some energy on that particular,
right.
It's like a chakra of the body,
right.
because there's certain energy that emanates from that place. Each and every place on this planet have different energy, like we have in the body. Body have different temperatures, that body have different energies. So not all the parts of the body are the same, exactly what you said. Jerusalem is the effect, it's not the cause. It is Jerusalem because there's certain energy on that place. That's an excellent example. Thank you, Maya. And by the way, I want to give a very big credit to my wife, Maya, for all this beautiful setup. She's an amazing designer, and she set up this whole beautiful space. So thank you, Maya, for your amazing work.
Thank you. You're
for
welcome.
Creating this beautiful space. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So, a couple of things about the letters of the month of Gemini. Raz, numerical value is 200 of Resh and 7 of Zayin. Together is 207. In Kabbalah, numerical value also gives us extra understanding about the energy of the value of certain words. So the numerical value 207 is of the word Or. Or means light. And again, what does it mean, light in Kabbalah? It's not the light of the lamp, it's not the light of the sun, it means pleasure. And it's not just the pleasure like when I'm eating ice cream, or it's not just the pleasure when we're having sex, or it's not the pleasure of watching a great movie or reading a great book. It's a pleasure of the light force of Creator. And again, for some of you, so what are you talking about? I mean, are you smoking something or something like that? I'm talking about pleasure, and when I'm telling, or we're taught today to empty ourselves of our preconceptions of certain things, it's also opened the space to receive higher forms of pleasure, which is not necessarily just physical pleasures. It's pleasure of the soul, it's pleasure of higher thought, it's pleasure of wisdom. This is what we are here to talk. So the value of 207 means light. So this month, by having the awareness of depriving ourselves, or being a space of we have nothing without light of Creator, then we can receive more of it, which translates to more wisdom and more understanding how to tap into that. Okay? Anybody have questions, comments, or observations online?
No.
Okay, let's continue. So in this month we have the merit, and it's a great privilege to receive a download of the secrets of the Zohar. Now, the secrets of the Zohar are available to us all the time, all the year, every day. If you are tapping into this wisdom, you can connect to that on a daily basis if you do. But in this month, even more so, you can receive a much more powerful download of this energy. First of all, if you appreciate it. Because if I put a piece of gold to my dog, they're not going to appreciate it. They're going to sniff it and then they're going to throw it away, if you even look at it. Why? Because they don't see value in it. The same thing, if you have no appreciation for the Zohar, for you it have no value. So if you're watching this video, I assume that you have some appreciation. So it's a good opportunity to even increase that appreciation, because the more you have the appreciation, the more you can create a vessel to receive more of this wisdom. It's beyond something that we can even describe with words or with even assign numerical like financial value to it. It's beyond anything. It's such a great privilege. So to connect it to the energy of the Zohar is considered the secret of the Torah, what the people call the Bible, which I don't like to use this word. Why? We know in Kabbalah, or in the teaching of those teachings of the Torah, we have 4 levels to decode the Torah. It's called Pardes, Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod. Pshat, it means the most simple level. Remez means a clue. Drash means inquiry. Sod means the secret. So again, this means secret. Raz means secret. So this month we have an extra opening in the universe to reveal even more secrets of the Zohar. So it's a wonderful opportunity to maybe to make a commitment to study more of this wisdom, to invest more time to tap into that.
So actually receiving the Torah is the receiving the secrets of the Zohar? Is it this, or it's not included?
First of all, it's excellent that you bring that up, because when we say Matan Torah means the giving of the Torah. If I give you something, does it mean you receive it?
Right. No, not necessarily.
What does it take for you to receive it?
To be open to receive it.
To have the vessel to receive
want
it.
it.
To want
actually
it,
want it
exactly.
and appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. So because the Torah is giving today is the actual download.
Not necessarily everybody is receiving
Doesn't
it.
mean you receive it. The first thing we want to cultivate. Thank you for bringing this up. It's a very important aspect, because it's the Matan Torah. Yeah, it's everybody receive it. No. Like you said, if there's a show and you don't on HBO, you don't watch the show, you miss the whole show.
Or somebody left you a gift, in front of your door. If you don't open the door and actually take the gift, that means you did not receive the gift.
Yeah, and even more so if you have a huge bank account in Switzerland, but you don't even know that the bank account exists.
Right.
And even if you know, maybe you don't have the code to access it.
Yes.
So this is about connecting to that big bank account in Switzerland and having the code to connect to that account.
I love it. The code, the access code.
Because if you don't have the code, if you know to have an account, what are you going to do with it, right?
Well, the hackers.
Yeah.
The Zohar is a hacking code.
It is a hacking code. So, if we cannot, like we say about the resh, the reduction, or the consciousness we are deprived of that life force, so we can receive it. If we cannot reduce all that to the resh, the poverty, we have no chance to ever make a connection to the light force of Creator. Think about it. If we don't reduce ourselves, which means if we are full of it, in other words, when a person is full of it, they think, "Well, I know it all." What do you mean this teaching? What are you talking about? I know it everything. I know the wisdom. If we are, God forbid, in this mindset, we are considering Kabbalah like a dead person. It's complete death, because you have no continuity. Continuity means constantly you receive some sustenance, whether it's resources, energy, whatever it is, and you keep receiving it, and you can using it for the sake of others, for the sake of sharing. The same thing with connection to the life force of Creator. It's by essence in outflow. So we want to be able to receive this outflow so we can channel it in our lives into this reality. So that's why it's so important to understand we want to reduce our identification, or even eliminate that as much as we can. Tzimtzum, contraction, yeah, exactly. We want to contract that false self so we can connect to the real, to the real deal. Yeah. Stop being so limited. The limitation is really, it's a huge disease that believes that we're so limited. There is a limitation, that there is this reality, so there is no resources, there is no goodness in this. This is such a lie we live in. Kabbalah, we always reminded why this reality was created, why we were created. We were created to receive the light force of Creator. We're here to enjoy the light force of Creator. But if we're stuck with small pleasures, having a drink, these like small, just very small things, we think, oh, this is such a wonderful thing. It's like playing with small toys. And Source wants to give us the real thing. Like imagine you playing with a doll, and Source tells you, hey, you can have a real baby, like a living, full of life. Right? And I want to play with a doll, which is lifeless, right? That's kind of
It's easier, right?
It's easier,
no commitment there.
But it's easier, but for the long run, it's a big price to pay, and humanity has been playing with the little toys for too long. Lifeless toys, that is. So we want to we learn about reducing ourselves so we can connect to the life force of Creator. That's essential understanding. Now, Source wants us to receive the light, but we must follow the rules. And what are the rules? We have to flip the switch, turn on the light. What is the switch? This is the switch. Not the book, but the wisdom in the book. It's like my teacher always said, the problem with the Zohar that it's only a book.
It looks like a book.
It looks like a book, but it is a book, but it's not about the book, it's about what it really reveals to us.
Well, in third-dimensional reality, it's a book. However, in other dimensions, higher dimensions, it's the wisdom and light.
Yeah. So we want to flip the switch. What does it mean to flip the switch? It means to connect to a certain system, a certain of guidance. That's why we always talk about Torah. It means instruction, it means guidance. So this system to flip the switch was presented on Mount Sinai for the first time in Mass. And it was presented under a condition, under the condition that people were unified. Because Moses could receive this download. Jesus could receive, maybe he did, maybe Buddha, Muhammad, whoever. It's not about the one person receiving this download. You could receive it, I could receive it, it doesn't matter. The point is that there's critical mass that needs to receive this download. This is what we are here to emphasize. It's not about you're achieving ascension and other people like, oh, you're so such an elevated human being, let's worship you. It's not about that. It's about achieving elevation, that receiving this download in mass, in group, in critical mass. That's really the importance. Yeah.
However, if we are one, and when it happened in Mount of Sinai with Moses, and Moses and the Israelites were one, so even if Moses received, is it possible that all of the people who are connected to Moses received together?
It is possible, and they did receive, but they lost it because the golden calf happened after that. Nevertheless, the event that took place, it is still imprinted in the universe. So when some big event, a positive event that happens in the universe happens, and we can tap into this event, we can draw light from this event. And many of us who, I would say, some of us maybe already completed their tikkun or their karma, but living on this planet today are part of those 600 souls. We could be sparks of those souls who were in Mount Sinai. The fact that we're still in this dense physicality, it means that we have work to do. Nevertheless, when we know that we can draw a light in connection to this cosmic event and the physical event that happened in Mount Sinai, we can achieve this ascension en masse in a group to receive this download.
Yeah, however, it's in our DNA as Israelites. The memory and the receiving the gift of receiving the Torah, it's in our DNA. Maybe we are still asleep, not aware of it.
But so if you're not aware, if you don't activate it, it's still going to be asleep.
Exactly, it's not been activated. But if the study and actually being aware what's happening, that's probably going to activate it.
It's going to activate. However, it's important that you don't sit today and say, wow, tonight I'm going to ascend, and tonight I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be an angel, or I'm going to have some superpowers. Don't get attached to the how and the when, but know that even if you don't see that with or you don't perceive that with your senses, the process is happening, and everybody receiving according to their vessel. So, because you listen after the class, say, wow, tonight I'm going to receive such a high download. You wake up and tomorrow morning, it's like, I didn't feel anything. It doesn't work like that. I'm going to explain why and how actually it does work. Okay?
Yeah, because this is what we want to know, how to receive it tonight.
Well, it's not about receiving this tonight. It's not about receiving this tonight. It's about connecting to wisdom, so you know it's happening, and the connection is happening on the soul level. That because you don't perceive it with your physical senses, it's not happening.
Right.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah.
And because you don't perceive it, doesn't mean it's not taking place. And it's not going to mean that you're not going to see the signs when the right time is coming. Because we know about the laws of cause and effect, that you don't get, when you give a charity to a person, you don't expect to receive a positive return on the spot. things happening in a certain way in the physicality, but the cause and effect, there's space and time why things are happening behind the scenes. Sometimes they manifest in a physical reality, and usually not in the same place it's happening. So the download is happening tonight. It's not something we can measure with physical tools. It's happening on the soul level. But nevertheless, when you connect to that, know it's happening. The knowing is the emunah. If you don't have the emunah, it's happening, you're not going to connect to that. You know? So the emunah, it's what we know in Hebrew is the faith. Also means certainty. Also it means trust. Do you trust source creator that it gives you energy to breathe the next second? You trust, right? You don't even think about it. Right? You think, yeah, you have trust, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to receive oxygen. Right? The same thing with this download. When you have the faith, even more so than the breath, it's the energy that actually sustains your breath, but beyond that. So it is. We talk about flipping the switch. So connecting that wisdom is the flipping the switch, and it's again, it's effort, it's work. Don't expect that tonight you're done and you're finished. It's not. I'm not saying it's not possible, but the awareness is like you're willing to do what it takes to continue the effort for the sake of not just for yourself, but for humanity on the critical level, on a global scale. Now, it is about completely changing our consciousness from what to what, from the limited self. We were told to believe in also as what we call the force of Satan. Satan or Satan, it's not a being with horns, it's not a demon, it's not a devil, it's a consciousness. Satan is a consciousness, comes from the Hebrew word lastin. Lastin means to divert. It's a consciousness that telling us to move from the path of source creator, to move from the path of spiritual work, to move from the path of being connected to source creator. So changing this awareness to stop thinking that way, it's not an easy thing. And maybe tonight one of the things you want to ask to receive the support to start transmitting this belief system that things are limiting, that you are limited. So we want to plant the seed tonight of completely changing our consciousness. Completely changing. Like whatever you think you are today, just imagine yourself, just try to imagine yourself in a completely different awareness. How and when it's going to happen, it's not up to you. But just know it's possible, and Source wants to give you all the tools and all the sustenance to achieve that awareness. That limitless awareness that everybody are so designed to receive in the movie Limitless, right? That powerful mind, those abilities that are actually they look like sci-fi, but we have much more than what they depict in the movie. Way beyond that. Way beyond that. So this gives us the opportunity to rise above this limited awareness and overcome this limitation on a global scale, and we need critical mass. Okay. Now, the mere fact that we are told that we're only use, think about it, the scientists tell us we use maybe 4 to 6%. Most people, some people 10%, like the geniuses, right? But usually in most humanity we use only 4 to 6% of our brain capacity. Just think about it, 4 to 6% of our brain capacity. Only thinking about that fact, it's already a sign for us that we want to expand. Now the scientists tell you, yeah, we can only use 4 to 6%, but they don't tell you how to expand. They sell, right now I sell a lot of advertising for different biohacking pills to take some pills. They sell them, I see them all the time. They advertise them on Facebook, on different social media. They give you like really expanded tools to expand your mind. And maybe
you're holding the biohacking tool right now.
And, maybe you take that, and I know there are very powerful herbs that give you stimulation of the mind, etc. But if you depend on that to expand your mind from the 4 to 6% to the 100%, then it doesn't work like that. The way it works is to use the Zohar to get rid of these limitations. The Zohar, it's not just intellectual studies, but it's actually emanation of energy that gives us those tools. Okay. Now let's start to read some Zohar. But before I go, actually, I want to read a little bit talk about Naso. So the name of Naso, it means to rise, to raise the head, or raise the thought. Now the interesting thing about the word of Naso, when I write it here on the board, Naso. Let me write it quickly here. It's written in Hebrew like that. Naso is written like that in Hebrew, 3 letters. Nun, Sin, Aleph, Naso. Now if you break that into parts like we know in Hebrew, when you learn a little bit of Hebrew, you learn how to deconstruct letters and words because they give you hints to deeper meanings. In this case, it's the Esh. We have here Esh, which means fire, plus Nun. Now fire is what we learn is the attribute of the season of the spring. We are in the third part of the season of the spring, and we know season of the spring, the energy of it is fire. Now Nun means 50. Okay, we spoke about the 50 earlier, that we are actually, today is the culmination of 50 days that potentially can give us the opportunity to rise to the 50th gate of purity, right? We have 50 gates of impurity, but here we can rise to the 50th gate of purity that have to do with Binah. Again, I'm going to repeat some Kabbalistic terms that are very important. We know that Binah is the energy storehouse of the universe. It's the highest attainment we can achieve. So when you talk about the 50th gate, it means of the 50th gate of purity is our ability to connect to Binah. This is the connection of the wisdom of Binah. It's not something that we can even, it's going to be very difficult for us to even imagine, because the consciousness of the awareness of Binah is what creates this physical reality. It's what funnels down through those 6 sphirot and go down to the 7th sphira. So the energy of Binah is something that it's really hard for us to even imagine what it is. So just to try to imagine that you don't know what you don't know. So the Binah is a very elevated state of being. But what we are counting, and today is the 50th day, is that connection of that fire that I showed here earlier. We talk about the fire of the Esh, the number 50, and the word Esh, which means fire. This is the fire. That's the fire that goes down, all the way down to physicality. So the name of this portion gives us a hint about what is the mechanism, or what are the tools that we are reminded by the Zohar to receive this fire of that strong energy that comes down into this reality, if we have the vessel to hold it. Like again, I speak about this example many times. If you have some electronic device, the electronic device can only handle certain current of electricity. Like the refrigerator and the lamp, they don't have the same electric capability. So our constant development or expansion, that's what builds the ability to contain more of that energy. Okay, so we'll learn what are the tools we can implement to expand that and to hold that into our lives. Now, in the teachings of Rav Ashlag is the commentator of the Zohar. He translated the Aramaic text of Rabbi Shimon into Hebrew, and now we have it in English and other languages. Now, Rabbi Shimon, he wrote a very important article that I highly recommend you to read. It's available both in Hebrew and in English. It's called Ma'amar Matan Torah. It means the essay on the giving of the Torah, because he explains some very fundamental principles, what it means to receive the Torah, or to receive the guidance, or to receive the instruction in our lives. What does it mean? So he explains that the essence, the core, the seed level of the receiving of the Torah means one thing, is ve'ahavta le'aracha kamocha. Love the neighbor as thyself. Now, it sounds very, to some people, like, oh, we heard that many times, yeah, I have to love my neighbor, I have to treat others the way I treat myself. It's more than that. I'm going to learn, right? What does it mean? Now, in order for us to fulfill our purpose, in each and every one of us, in order for us to fulfill our potential and our purpose, a human being must rise above limitation. Which sounds pretty makes sense, right? Like if I want to reach my potential, I have to rise above my limitation. But if your awareness of what your potential is limited, how can you rise above it? Like in the story of the Baron Munchausen, there's a story when he goes he drowns in the mud, and he pulls himself out of the mud. It's impossible. We cannot, like Einstein said, you cannot solve a problem with a limited perception that creates a problem. So we have to think outside of the problem. The same thing it has to do with our awareness of ourselves. So if you want to achieve our potential, we have to rise above our perception what our potential is, what we think is available for us, or what we think we're capable. Okay, does it make sense? So we remember, again, reminder, we come from the endless, and we must learn how to reconnect to that limitless realm, to that limitless awareness or consciousness that created us, to connect, to establish a connection. If you try to measure success in a certain way, let's say you made a big financial deal, and now you're a multi-millionaire or multi-billionaire, but your wealth lasts only a short time, maybe a few days, few hours, few months, and then it's going away from you for a long time. Maybe you never gain it back. So does it mean you're still successful? No, you're not successful, because your measurement of success means there's continuity. And that's what we're here to achieve, a continuity of the success, that we are overcoming certain limitation and we sustain that ability. When we think about it in your lives, that when you were able to overcome certain challenge and you overcame it for good, then you can claim it's a success. Then you own it, and that's what we're here to attain. That overcoming or certain limitation about ourselves, it's everlasting. It's not something temporary. It's long-lasting, everlasting fulfillment. So, rising above limitations means to rise above our desire to receive. What does it mean to rise above? What does it mean for you?
Can you say again?
Rising above limitations means we rise above our desire to receive for the self alone. What does it mean for you?
As you said, we're talking about real receiving, right?
It means we rise from the desire to receive for the self alone to receive for the sake of sharing. That's limitation. If a person says, I just want to be famous singer, or a person says, I just want to be like very rich, so that's very strong desire, but only for the self alone. One of the ways to rise above the limitation is like you learn that you actually want to be rich for a purpose, because you want to use your wealth to do many good things in this reality, or you want to be a great musician because you want a lot of people to enjoy your music. Maybe some people are going to heal from your music. Maybe going to people some good inspiration from your music. Many different ways. So rising above limitation, we're rising above the limitation of receiving just for ourselves. That's a big shift in consciousness. We don't limit. We don't say, oh, I'm such a pious person, I don't want to receive anything. No, I want to receive a lot for the sake of sharing. That's rising above the limitation. And that's why in Hebrew the word for desire means ratzon. We flip the letters, we get
Ratzon.
Tzino. When the word ratzon in Hebrew means desire. When we flip the letters, we get tzino, which means a channel. So our desire becomes a channel for funneling energy into our reality and to our environment, family, communities, etc. So that ratzon, or that desire, is what connects us to the endless. I'm going to repeat that again. The desire that we build or expand or constantly working to expand, it's our connection to the endless. Because endless have no limitation. But if you are limited, there is no affinity of form. If you want to be like the endless, you have to become like endless. You constantly receive, constantly sharing, constantly funneling that sustenance. If we are blocked or we're stuck, usually something happens in our life to wake us up. If a person have a constipation, maybe at the beginning they don't know they're constipated until they feel like they're so clogged. They have to do something to allow continuity in their body. The same thing means it translates to everything in our lives. It's not just food, it's about finances, relationship, anything in our lives. When we feel stuck, it means there is no continuity. It means we have to release the clogging, or something needs to be cleared because we're blocking it with our mind, with our limitation. That's a sign when we're stuck. It means we're stuck in our mind, with our awareness. Now, in order for us to rise above the limited desire to receive for the self alone, we need massive energy. Again, we cannot just do it by ourselves. We need some support. What does it mean to have massive energy? Let's say you have a startup right now, In the old days, in the old paradigm, you would go to investors or you go to the bank to get a loan. You need some support. Today you do crowdfunding. You have what we call, you take a village or community, everybody gives you $1, you have 1 million people, you raise $1 million. Because those people, they give you energy to allow you to rise, to naso, to elevate yourself. Okay? So this support that we're talking about is the power of the community. We cannot do it just by ourselves. If we want to have this ability to expand ourselves, we need the community support. Now, this support is it's a mechanism of empowerment towards each other. Those people who, if you go and do crowdfunding for a certain product or service, the people who support you, they believe in you. They see you have a great idea. They want to give you something because they want to see you successful. Some people want to also get the perks and the benefits. They want to get the rewards, which is very natural. But nevertheless, they recognize the greatness that you have. That gives us the understanding of the power of the community. That when you want to have that ability to rise above your limited desire, it's not just say, yeah, I want to desire more things. I want to more and to influence more. It needs to be applicable in a community. I'm going to explain more what it means. What time is it, by the way?
It's 10 before 9.
Okay, we have time. So when we are in a community, whether it's a village, a neighborhood, whatever you define as a community, when we are living in a community, we support and strengthen each other. When others support us, we begin to believe that we can. It takes one person to tell us that I believe in you. One person can make a huge difference in a child's life or an adult's life. Somebody will come and tell you genuinely and authentically, I believe in you. And when a person hears that, that gives them power and conviction to succeed. It can translate in a family. When you raise a child, you want to tell your child that you believe in them, and even if you don't believe in them, convince yourself that actually, if you believe in yourself, or if you don't believe in yourself, you believe in something, and somebody believed in you. And telling your child that you believe in them can make a huge difference. Telling your spouse, to your community, even in a company, what makes a big difference between a successful company, not successful company, is the level of self-esteem that people have, and that they feel that they're valuable. And I want to give some examples to that. Now, what happened in Mount Sinai, there were 600,000 individuals, or 600,000 souls that were united for one goal: to support each other, to rise above the limitation, and to connect to the energy of immortality. That's what's happening tonight.
Right now.
Right now. I hope we have 600,000 people at least on this world, because if we do have them right now, we can achieve critical mass, quantum leap of humanity. If we have that right now,
we can send them thoughts right now
so
to these 600,000 people.
This is the critical mass.
Let's unite.
Yeah, this is the number. People talk a lot about what's the critical mass we need in humanity to achieve a shift. It's 600,000 people. There's a reason why it's 600,000, etc. We're not going to get into that. It's not necessarily 600,000 people. These are 600,000 souls.
Right.
So it's important to understand that critical mass is important. So if you just connect, yes, I want to achieve elevation and ascension, it's very limited perception. You have to think about the community. We all can receive that and send that to others, and think about all the others in this world, even more than 600,000, that I believe in you. I believe each and every one of us have a role to play. Each and every one of us is important. Each one of us has something to transmute in this reality. So what happened in Mount Sinai, we said that there was very powerful unity, and that unity was created, that power to support each other was resulted from the unity. Now, when Rabbi Shimon came out of his 13 years in a cave because he was persecuted by the Romans, he attained very high level of beyond what we can understand, what kind of level of wisdom he attained. So when he got out of the cave after those who went to kill him, and they were not present anymore, the first thing he did, he went to share his wisdom with others, because he understood this wisdom needs to be shared. And we are right now part of the lineage that happened 2,000 years ago as a result of Rabbi Shimon sharing this wisdom with us. So what a great merit to continue this lineage of wisdom. Okay? So when Kabbalists, when we learn about the example of the way Kabbalists they manage their lives, Kabbalists always maintain small study groups. Why those study groups are important? Because those study groups of people, they are arevim zelazeh. They are guaranteed to each other. They're supporting each other.
This is what we have here in Mount Shasta.
This is what we have here, and I hope each and every one of you is part of a certain community. That this community is not a community of competition; it's a community of support. That people see a greatness, see that value that you have, and each one of us have a different value. We have different role to play. So whatever community you're part of, there is a support system that lifts you up. When you're down, they lift you up, and you do the same for others. It's a commitment, and it's very important, because if you don't have that, you're missing the whole point. You cannot never attain that level of high awareness that we're talking about. It's not philosophical awareness; it's practical. That's why it means "Ve'ahavta le'arecha kamocha," love thy neighbor. This translates into how you relate to people. It translates in your work in the community. So let's continue. Which brings us, when we talk about the value that we have, whether you have a company, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work for somebody else, whether you are stay-at-home mom or dad, wherever you are, we're here to produce something. We're producers in this reality. Now, we don't sell necessarily, even if you sell a jewelry, you don't sell a product. What you sell value, quality, and happiness. And why it's important to understand? Because this is the real work that we have to do in this world, to give value to other people. And waking up to this realization is maybe for some people it's news. Maybe for some of you it's not news, but realize that you're not here just to sell products and just to be wealthy. Whatever product you have, if you infuse that value into what you do, including what we're transmitting with this, and we hope that there's actually the consciousness of value into the study, that you receive the value and you can pass it on. This is very important realization, because this will make the difference whether our civilization is going uphill or is going downhill, God forbid. And when we talk about community, I want to remind ourselves that Rav Ashlag spoke about, when you're in a community, it's never going to be ideal. There's going to be certain people, they're going to be the party poopers, so to speak. But even those, they will transmit, because if you have majority of people, we talk about there's the egoists, there are the altruists, and there are the ideologists. When you want to build a community, whether you start with 5 people, you want to start with the idealists and the altruists, because these are the people who strive to make better things and actually taking also the actions. The egoists are only those who came to take. So when you start a community, always start with the altruists and the idealists, because these are the people that really hold the group together and make sure there's progress and there is growth. And only when the group is strong enough, then you can introduce in a very small drips those egoists, because if the majority is the altruists and the idealists, the egoists will transform as well.
They are going to affect them.
They will going to affect you. So don't be discouraged if in a community there's a couple of egoists, as long as the majority are not. Because those egoists will transform, because they want to be like anybody else.
If not, they're going to leave.
Otherwise they're going to leave, exactly. Yeah. And this brings us to observation of the Darwinist ideology, the survival of the fittest. The survival of the fittest, what Darwin introduced to the world. Unfortunately, most of the world of commerce and business is run by these principles. They don't work. As an evidence, look at how much pain and suffering is in the world. Even if people becoming wealthy, but the level of pain and suffering in this world is not diminishing. It's actually getting bigger. Some people are becoming very wealthy, but it doesn't mean that our society is progressing. It's not the sign. The sign of progressing is how much there is caring between human beings one to each other. That's really how you measure the success or the progress of humanity. So the Torah, on the other hand, complete contradiction to Darwinism, the Torah teaching us that this idea, the measurement of success or progress of society is the success of the whole. If we have 400 billionaires in this country, I think that's the number or something like that, or I don't know what's that, but maybe in the world, but most of the billionaires are in America, I think. So let's say so much wealth there is in this country, but there's so much also homeless people in this country. Doesn't mean this society is progressing. No, it's not progressing, because as long as there are such a big numbers of there's 1% of this country is in jail, for example. So this gives you the evidence that this society have some really major problems that are not addressed. Because some people are very wealthy doesn't mean that the society is progressing. So the only measurement is the success of the whole, or at least of the majority. Okay, like there's some countries like I think Iceland or Finland, they almost eradicated crimes. I mean, they have, or in some countries in Scandinavia, I think in Sweden they're closing jails, because there is a very effective system that takes those people who are what we call the weaker links in society, and they are caring for them. They find them jobs, they give them professional training. These people feel that somebody cares for them, so they don't need to go take drugs or become alcoholics or become rapists or murderers. These people feel like somebody believes in them. They feel they have value.
They, I think, also receiving monthly payments. All the residents receiving monthly
It's not about,
payments.
even if you receive monthly payments, you can still become a parasite in society. But receiving monthly payment is not the guarantee. What is the guarantee is that you feel that others care for you. That actually somebody reaching out for you, say, you have value. I would like to find how to see how I may support you to be successful. Whatever interests you, makes you happy, and brings happiness to others. So that's how you measure. Yeah. Switzerland also give people, I think they have a salary. I don't know much about Switzerland, but I like the example of Scandinavia, because in Scandinavia they are really eradicating poverty. Yeah. So that's a great example that shows that how much there is care for the individuals. Doesn't matter if you're from a wealthy family, you're from the royalty, whatever. Even you're the most simple person on the street, you still have value. And that's translated into actions.
Let's pray that it will affect all the world, and it's going to spread all over the world.
Yeah, and I hope in America, because America is really the more, it's like the prominent example in the world to many things, and unfortunately becoming right now example for many not very good things. And hopefully we can translate, because it's a great nation. We're going to learn a bit more about what is the success of a nation according to Kabbalah. So the Torah teaches us that when we take, it gives us the example what a successful business model, like you can translate into a company. So this successful business model is called Ummah. Ummah means a nation, okay, which can translate to any country in this world. That is kind of, I'm continuing what I just mentioned earlier. It is a successful nation is founded on the attributes of Naso, which is the name of this portion. Naso, it means I'm elevating each and every one of you. Each and every one of you, I'm reminding you and I'm supporting that you are an important part of the society. Even one screw in the machine, if it's lacking, can destroy the whole machine. I think Challenger, the space shuttle that exploded in 1987 or something, there was some like a minor thing that happened in their fuel tanks that made the whole shuttle explode. Like one thing, like small thing. The same thing has to do with the nation. One person, like Adolf Hitler, for example, which was he became a very negative person, took his nation to a complete extreme destruction, almost destroyed the entire world, like one person. Imagine if Adolf Hitler would become a successful artist because he wanted to be an artist. And he was rejected from the art school. So he developed a very severe resentment to society. Imagine how many people in this world are those potential Hitlers, God forbid. They're the people who feel they've been screwed, they've been repressed. There's so many people on this planet that actually right now feeling like that. And the human spirit cannot be repressed, and that's why we have to care in each and every one of us. Like the entire world depends on us, on one person.
Right. This is the difference between hell and heaven.
Yeah.
Right. It's the story the ancient story that when person died and he went to hell, and they have into heaven, and you know it's beautiful there. There is food and people feeding each other with
Yeah.
the long spoons.
The long
And he
spoons,
went to hell, and it was the same. They have food and everything, but the people would not feed each other with this long spoon. They were like starving, and they had all the food and everything. But you know, in one place it's separation, in one place it's unity. So that was actually a definition of hell and heaven.
It's a great example. Actually, I saw somebody made a cartoon the same.
Right,
People
beautiful.
sitting around this big
Yes.
plate with these big spoons.
Perfect.
It's this is
Perfect.
exactly the example.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's actually, I read this in Zohar many years ago, that story.
So the whole idea of a supporting environment is the essence that we learned in Zohar of this week. Naso, we are raising each other. Rising or
It's
raising,
actually
not
that.
just raising a child, but raising the spirits of each
Lasset.
other. Huh?
Lasset.
Lasset means to elevate,
Yeah.
elevating each other, raising each other. Now, if you find yourself in an environment, could be a family, could be a community, wherever you are, that it's not the environment that's raising you or elevating you, it's a good time for you to I think the light. It's a good.
Too much energy, strong energy.
So if you find yourself in this reality, in this environment that you're not supported, in some even circles, people actually putting you down, they're repressing you, tell you that you're worthless, you tell you that you're nothing, that you're telling you that you're wasting your life, and you find yourself in this environment because some people that
Yeah, you
whether
gotta
they're
live.
watching like that this video or maybe they've been into a situation, or they know somebody else who in this situation right now, just get up and leave this get out of this environment.
Yeah.
It's a toxic
Now.
environment. Do it right now, and find the environment, the community that will support you. They will see that you have value, that you have a spark of life force of creator. That's where you want to be.
Yes.
That makes huge difference because you may think, yeah, I really don't worth it. And there's people that are actually like they're only affirming my belief that I'm nothing. So it's if you are in the state of mind, maybe consider to shift your belief that actually you're not nothing. You have some value in this reality.
Yeah.
The nothing I spoke about earlier, that we're nothing without life force of creator. But the life force of creator is the force that beats each and every one hearts on this planet. So no heart is more or less important than the other. So if you are in the toxic environment, consider moving somewhere else. It's very important to remember that. So let's go a little bit to a deeper study before we go to the Zohar. The Zohar is teaching us a very important spiritual principle that I would like to share with you. The Zohar is teaching us, which is kind of what we discussed earlier, there's a big difference between the time and place of our actions, like you do a certain action right now, to the payback of our actions. This realization is important because when you go to the store and you buy something, you get whatever you pay for instantly. There is also an element of instant gratification. You want something, you want to happen right now. The thing what we learned is Zohar in spirituality doesn't work like that. It doesn't mean you don't get the payback, but it doesn't happen immediately. Also applies to negative things. Like when you do something negative, your retribution does not happen immediately either. Why we have the framework of space and time? We have the framework of space and time to build a vessel in steps. That's why the framework of time was created. It's not an absolute system, but it's a framework for us to work within it, to refine ourselves in this reality, because we came into the work. The fact that we are in physical reality, the lowest of the lowest densities in the universe, means we have work to do. Okay? So this time and space framework was given to us to rise in steps. So that's why when we do something, we don't get retribution for the good or the bad immediately. In Kabbalah, it's called the attribute of mercy, chesed. This world is built on the attribute of mercy, which means when you do something especially bad, because a lot of us, we've did some bad things in the past, but we didn't get the retribution immediately, but the law of cause and effect of karma, the ticking clock is happening, it's taking place. But we're given the opportunity to correct, to do what we call teshuvah. Teshuvah means realignment. Like when you have a car, and your wheels are not very well, so you're kind of going off the path. So you go into the mechanic, and he's realigning your wheels, and then you can stay on the path and not veer away from the path. So this realignment is that gives us the opportunity with the study of the Zohar and the teaching of the Torah to correct maybe bad things that happened, and even if we do good things, we know that we're planting seeds. Like sometimes out of the blue you receive something like good news suddenly, or you receive a check, or you receive something completely you looks like out of the blue. But this payback is how the universe is actually retributing for you for something good you did in the past. You don't always see the cause and effect, and same things with bad things, God forbid. But the whole point is that we do more of the good things so we clear the karma. The karma is not set in stone. It's important to understand that whatever karma we had in this life or past lives, we can clear, we can realign by using those tools.
Karmic bank account.
The karmic bank account, yes.
Karma.
Excellent, yeah. Now, so we want to be reminded that there is difference between the time and place of our actions to the payback of our actions. These places are not the same. Very important to understand that we are used to this reality that we see an immediate reaction to something that we do. We're so used to, oh, I see this, I feel that. I think about this, and I want to think about ice cream. I want to have the ice cream. So there is the illusion of the things that need to happen right now. And yes, we need to live in the now, but there is time and space between the action and the payback. Okay, and we're gonna learn what it means deeper. Now we are reminded a very fundamental principle in Kabbalah, that for receiving, now why we're going to talk about it, that's what we're going to explain. We're reminded that there's a very important aspect in Kabbalah, very fundamental principle, that to receive the light force of Creator, we need two conditions. Okay, the first condition is the desire, is the ishtokekut. The second is the resemblance of form. It's the vessel. We spoke earlier in the class. So it needs to be two conditions in order for us to receive that light. Like we talk about receiving of the Torah, which means there was perfect unity between the vessel, the desire, and there was resemblance of form. Okay? So, if we want, for example, if I want to eat, I have the desire to eat, first of all, I need to have some kind of desire. I want to be hungry a little bit. I want to have maybe some thought about the food. Then the second thing, the other condition is to have the vessel that I can have something to eat, to have a plate, to have actually empty stomach so that I can contain the nourishment and to contain the food in my body. Now, if another example, which is kind of opposite, if a small child wants to eat sand, they have strong desire, but their body is not designed to handle the sand. It's not going to nourish them. So there is an example of there is a desire, but there is no vessel. Sometimes we have a vessel, we don't have a desire. Sometimes we have a desire, we don't have a vessel. So ideally we want to have both. We want to have more alignment between the desire and the vessel, and the resemblance to what we want to receive. So now both conditions are very important and they're essential. The desire to receive is built within us. We are born with a desire to receive. Like we said earlier in the classes, like the French philosopher said, I think therefore I am. It's wrong. The Kabbalah teaching us, I desire therefore I am, because animals think too. What defines you as a vessel is how much desire you have. And we are born by our nature, we're creatures who want something. Now, when a child is raised, they receive various stimulations to trigger and build up their desires. So if a parent have some Kabbalistic tools, they want to give their children stimulation to constantly grow their desires. Like we said earlier, at the beginning you give the child a little toy, or you give them a doll, but then when you give them the tool to expand their desires, then they want to have something that have life in it, not just the empty shell that have just looks like the thing, but it have no life of its own. So when we are raising our desire, we're constantly expanding our desire, and we can receive more of that fulfillment. Like we said, we are naturally built in to receive this fulfillment. Now, the spiritual work of the human beings begin when we awaken that desire to receive that life as of Creator. Again, we're going back to the giving of the Torah, or the receiving of the Torah in Mount Sinai, because that was the time, or that was the culmination of a certain awakening of a very strong desire to receive life force of Creator on a global scale, in a critical mass, on a big number. There was a unity of souls that were gathered in one place, and they felt, yeah, we are here, we're ready to receive.
And also received the secrets of immortality.
They received the secrets of immortality, yes.
That
Now,
means it's also, we've been designed and we have this in our DNA.
yeah, exactly. We spoke about what it means, the limitless mind and attributes. Now, if we don't awaken this desire, we won't have a vessel to receive it. Now, because it's built in us doesn't mean we have the desire. We have to awaken this desire. If you never tasted a certain gourmet meal, and then one day you go to a place and somebody shares with you this meal, then it awakens you the desire, and then you want it. Now, we cannot desire something we never tasted before.
Right.
Because we tasted that before, so the Zohar and this teaching is helping us to reawaken something we already know. It's part of us. Because we tasted, like you cannot crave something you never tasted before. Right?
Yeah.
It is our job to expose ourselves to these spiritual realms that we always talk about in Kabbalah, the Sefirot. So we have the desire to receive this light. And we're like little children, like we said, like we want to stop playing with the toys. We want to, okay, we play with the toys, now we want to go to get to the real thing with the life force, the real energy. Now, when we talk about the second thing, we spoke about the desire. Now, the resemblance of form. The resemblance of form, we call in Kabbalah in Hebrew, shivui tzura. It means that's when we have a connection, a similar thing that resembles another. Like a couple that are living together or they get married because there is some resemblance of form, not physical form, but there's resemblance, there's shivui tzura between them. There's resemblance of love, of attraction, of soul connection to each other that brings them together.
Same goal.
The same goal, but there's a resemblance of form, resemblance of a vessel. Exactly. And what kind of vessel we want to call? It's called in Kabbalah kli zach. Our job, like we said, constantly we are purifying. We are constant process of purification. So we can create what we call a kli zach, a pure vessel, because light of force of Creator is pure. It have no selfish desires. So the more we eliminate those selfish desires, the more we elevate and we more become closer to that pure light of Source Creator called Or Zach. We become Kli Zach, a pure vessel. So just kind of to summarize this point, we have here two parts. One part which draws, desires, and takes actions physically. Because I want something and I have the desire to receive this energy doesn't mean it's philosophical. I have to translate that into actions. And then the second part is which receives, and it's not depending on time and space, because I'm doing certain actions. Not always I can see them right now in the same place. We guarantee to receive the benefits of the good actions, but not necessarily in the same right now, in the same moment. But Zohar, there's rules, there's system of energy, and there's a system of cause and effect. So when we do certain actions, we know that the payback will come. It's not lost. There is no loss of energy for the good and the bad. And why it's important? Because we are so, like we said, we are many times attached to the physical or the immediate retribution or to see the result at the moment. An example, if I give a gift to my friend, the pleasure I receive is not felt in the hand that gives the gift. The pleasure I receive from giving the gift is within me, is in my soul. When I give you the gift, like when I give you something, it's not something I feel like such a pleasure in my hands. And when you receive the gift, you don't feel the pleasure is from the gift itself. It's something inside of you,
Yeah.
right? So the greatness of a person is measured according to the teachings of Kabbalah by the gap between the action to the reward. In other words, the more or the less you are attached to how fast you see the reward from what you do, the more elevated person you are. And more person wants to see immediate result to what they do right now. Like, I gave a donation, I want my name on a plaque immediately when people acknowledge me, etc. This kind of person is considered very small in characteristics, not in size. And this is really the secret of Gemini, the Tomim, the two that are one. The two, which means there's two attributes which appear as contradiction. On one hand, we do something, and the results or the rewards happens on a completely different level. One is physical, one is not physical, but they're one. There's unity between them, and this unity is an inner attribute that we cultivate. Yes, want to say something?
Yeah, what's the secrets of Gemini and the tablets? We received 2 tablets. What's the secret of these 2?
We spoke about them last week. I'm going to talk to them about it again, but
Because
we know
it's
that
happening now.
the secrets of the tablets are the two fives. When I'm going to talk in the Zohar in a couple of minutes, I'm going to explain.
Okay.
But the Gemini are the 2 that are one. The 2 is many things that can be translated to many things. Is the vessel and life force of Creator. Is physicality and the energy that sustains physicality. They are both one. There is no separation between them. And we're going to talk about more attributes as I'm going to read in the Zohar. And now, what is the most effective way to us to achieve this work? Is to make ourselves working in a familiar environment. Like when you begin the study of the Zohar, many things become many are not familiar to you. When you go into a new job, you become more successful in the job once you become familiar with your environment. Anything you do in your life, you start to feel comfortable when you become familiar with the environment. So the environment that we're taught here is inner environment, is a spiritual GPS. These are cosmic laws that are translated to us by the Zohar. So the more we make ourselves familiar with those laws, the more we start to learn how to navigate within them. These are inner attributes that a person cannot give it to somebody else. I cannot give you my inner attributes or my inner attainments because you have to do the work yourself. What I can give you, as much as I've been given, is the guidance. So the more we become familiar with that environment, we feel more comfortable to work within it. Does it make sense? Okay, let's get someone to the Zohar. How are we doing with the time, Maya?
9:25.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with verse number 17. זכאה ברנש דזכי באורייתה, למיזה להתדבקה באורחוי, דחר ברנש אזיל באורחוי, דאורייתה, משיך עלי רוחה, קדישה אילאה. כדא עד יערה עלינו רוח ממרום, וחד ברנש סטי אורחוי, משיך עלי רוחה אחרה, מסתרה אחרה. דהו סתרה דמסאבה וסתרה דמסאבה, יתאר מסתרה דנוקבה, דתהומה רבה, דתמן מדורין דרוחין בישין, דנזקי לבני נשה, דעקרון נזקי אלמה, דה מסתרה דקין קדמאה, ישתחחו. Translation: Happy is the person who merits the Torah, to follow and adhere to his ways. When a person follows the ways of the Torah, he draws upon himself a holy supernal spirit, as it says, until a spirit be poured upon us from on high. When a person diverts his ways from the Torah, he draws upon himself a spirit from the other side, which is the unclean side. That defiled side awakens from the side of the hole of the great abyss, wherein lie the wicked spirits that harm people and are called the world's destroyers and originate in Cain. This verse in the Zohar talks about building a spiritual protection through study. We know that when we talk about the code name of Cain, the story of Cain in heaven, the name Cain comes from the Hebrew word kinyan, means property, physicality. The awareness of Cain is the awareness that draws us to a very limited awareness in this reality. Now, if we are rooted in limited awareness in this reality, we are opening ourselves to a lot of harm, because physical reality, like we said, if you have a lot of money, does not guarantee that you're going to live longer. Like we give examples of Rockefeller or many other people. One day they're multi-billionaires, the next day they have nothing.
Steve
The
Jobs.
money, many of them, the money does not guarantee sustenance, life force. So what guarantees life force? And even more so, connecting to this life force of Creator is the spiritual connection of the Zohar and the wisdom of the Zohar. Now, cause and effect they play a huge part in each and every one of us lives. Every word, every action that we do, it creates a ripple effect, whether we're conscious of it or not conscious of it. So many times, first of all, when we begin our spiritual work, we start to be aware of all the negativities we created until now. Maybe some people think, oh, now I'm studying Kabbalah, I wake up in the morning, everything is rosy, everything is illuminated. But if you take an example of a person who has been smoking for many, many years, when they begin the process of detoxification, it's very nasty process.
Even worse.
It's actually becoming worse because now you start to see the garbage. So the process of doing the Kabbalah, the learning the tools of Kabbalah, you begin actually. It might feel at the beginning like very, you feel like high all the time. You feel like very light and amazing, but then you start to really see the negativities, and then you say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to see that stuff. But actually, if you looked at it from a high point of view, you realize that this is part of your work to attain spiritual protection, because if we are not aware of those negativities, it's very likely we're going to continue producing more of them. So the Zohar is actually giving us the eyes and the wisdom to see the negativity so we don't repeat them. And whatever we did, we can correct and we can clean that stuff. That's what builds us protection. And another one of the attributes of how we put that into practice is we are transmuting selfish desires into caring for others. If until now maybe we're not caring for others enough, now one of the cause and effect of learning this wisdom of Kabbalah, we start to care more for other people. Now we say that many times that the Zohar, it's not just intellectual study, but it's actually a protective shield. By studying this wisdom, you are connecting to energy and to awareness that is beyond this physical reality. You may not feel that, you're not aware, maybe you don't see how it works, but trust that it actually works. And actually there are many miracles, stories that we both personally experienced and that we heard from many other people. We just don't understand how it works. But it's a very powerful system that helps us to purify negativities and to protect ourselves and others as well, to remove that pain and suffering from the world, like we said in the beginning of the class. Let's continue to verse number 19. וכל מן דעבר על פיקודי אורייתא, כביכול פגים לעילה, פגים לטאטא, פגים לגרמי, פגים לכל עלמין, מטל לעינון מפרישי ימין, דשעתי בארבע, קם חד שתיה בעיניהו, בעל נקבה וכולי. Anyone who transgresses the utterances or the advices of the Torah, he or she, as it were, makes a flaw above and impairs below, becomes flawed and impairs all worlds. This is similar to the seafarers on a ship. When a fool among them stands up and wishes to punch a hole in the boat, his neighbor asks him, "Why are you drilling?" And he answers, "Why are you concerned? I am drilling only under my own spot." He replies, "Because we'll both drown in the boat together." This is a great example about taking responsibility of the power of our thoughts and our actions. Whatever negativity, and we all have negativities, each and every one of us have something to work on. This verse is reminding us that we are not just responsible for our own garbage, excuse me for the language, but actually we're affecting other people. Because whatever negativity we're dealing with, there are at least a couple of other people around the world who are connecting to us on the level of awareness and consciousness, and we're affecting them by our behavior. So when we are deep in our, excuse me for that, when we're deep in our shit, we should at least try to awaken from that and say, wait a minute, I have responsibility, I'm affecting other people. And if you don't have the power to do that, it's a good sign that you actually need some help. I'm not talking about going to professional help, you need some spiritual advice. Sometimes professional help you need that too, but it's a sure sign if you cannot stop being in that negativity. Say, you know what, I'm going to rise above my negativity. At least I'm aware I have the negativity, but also I'm aware that I'm affecting other people. I know it's a very hard thing to do, but depends on your level of this work. If you find yourself it's impossible for you, maybe that's the time to also evaluate in what community are you, because the community can support you to rise above that negativity. The first thing you can do is actually go and do some acts of sharing for other people, because that pulls you out immediately out of selfishness and out of depression. You know. So now I want to talk about. There is another aspect about the name of the verse, the portion, the weekly portion that I would like to explain to each and every one of us. Is the letters of the portion is Nun, Shin, and Aleph. I'm going to explain what it means. Nun, Shin, Aleph. Is Neshama, soul. Soul. Shabbat. Adam. So I wrote here the three letters that are the letters of this weekly portion, Naso, Nun, Shin, Aleph. Now these are also acronym for Nun is Neshama, is the soul. The Shin is the Shabbat. The Aleph is Adam. What are those code names? First of all, what we've been discussing on this weekly portion and about the receiving of the Torah. The receiving of the Torah is a level of connection to our soul. We spoke about earlier in the class that our work is to rise above the limitations of the ego. The soul have no limitations. So this verse, the DNA of this verse, of this weekly portion, is to connect to the soul level that has no limitation. What is the Shin? The Shin is the Shabbat. We have a weekly opportunity to connect to the perfection unity between the vessel and life force of Creator. This is what happens on Shabbat. In Shabbat, if we are connected, like for some people, Shabbat can be just another weekend. They just chill and play video games or whatever. But Shabbat is an opportunity to attain the unity between the vessel and life force of Creator. It's a perfect balance between the two. So that's the Shin. The Aleph is the Adam. The reminder of the code name of Adam in this particular week is to remember our blueprint. When we talk about Adam, because I'm a human being and I look human and I have a human name and I speak and I do things that humans do, doesn't mean I'm Adam. The real connection of the Adam is the connection of the limitless blueprint of a human being. That's the purpose of creation. And we spoke about this many times. We learn Kabbalah to live not by circumstance, but to live by purpose. You don't live by life have no meaning of its own. Life have a purpose. What's the purpose? To be Adam. So these are the three code names of we also reminded of this week is connection of the soul, the Shabbat, and the purpose of what it means to be a human. Okay? Anybody have questions, comments, observations? No?
No.
Alright. So let's continue. How are we doing with the time?
25 to 10.
20 times, okay. So let's go to verse number 22. רבי יצחק ורבי יהודה הבוא אז לי מאושה ללוד. אמר רבי יהודה, נעימה מילין דאורייתא, ונזל פתח רבי יהודה ואמר, כי יפתח איש בור, או כי יכרה איש בור וגומר. מה כתיב בתרי? בעל הבור ישלם וגומר. ומה על דקך מן דגרים לאבאשה על מה בחובוי עכו? אלא תבהנה דאף על גב דאב איש על מה, עמי איתלי תשובה, כמה דכתיב איש או אישה כי יעשו וגומר, ויתוודו את חטאתם, והשיב. Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda were traveling from Usha to Lod. Rabbi Yehuda said, let's discuss some Torah as we go. Rabbi Yehuda opened the discussion with the verse, if a man shall open a pit, or if a man shall dig a pit. The following verse said, the owner of the pit shall make it good. Therefore, whoever harms the world with his transgressions should most certainly make it good, or transmute the negativity to something positive. However, I wonder, since he caused harm to the universe, why does repentance help? As it says, when a man or a woman shall commit any sin, then they shall confess the sins, and he shall make restitution. Let's continue to verse number 23. אלא ודאי דע מהניה להו בגין דאבד תשובה, כביכול הוא אבד לי ממש. דהמה דפגים לילה, התקין לי ובמה בתשובה, דכתיב איש או אישה כי יעשו וגומר, והתוודו את חטאתם והשיב. ותשובה התקין קולה, התקין לילה, התקין לטאטא, התקין לגרמי, התקין לכל עלמה. Translation, he replies, assuredly it helps them, because when he or she repents, it is as they cause it in reality. Since repentance in Hebrew, it means teshuvah, which literally means to return, to come, to return back. We're going to learn what it means to return, what to return. Returns the hay to the vav. He restored whatever he damaged above. How? By repentance, as it's written, when a man or woman shall commit any sin, then they shall confess their sins, and he shall make restitution, return. Repentance restores everything. It repairs above, and it repairs below, restoring himself and restoring the whole universe. Like we said earlier, we spoke about the process of spiritual realignment. Once in a while we do things, so maybe we're still kind of in our process of restoring negativities we did from the past. But this restorement actually it's translating Kabbalah into what we know about the Yud Ke Vav Ke. When we talk about the return, Tshuva means returning the hay. Hay means physicality, which means we are realigning the connection between the flow of the energy of sustenance into this reality. The hay represents the physical reality, which is the last step of the materialization of light force of creator. If we are doing certain negativities in this reality, or we did in the past, we're harming the materialization or the revelation of the light force of creator in our lives and in this reality. That's why we have the example in the previous verse that if a person drills a hole in the boat and somebody says, hey, why are you drilling a hole, we're going to drown, he said, why do you care, I'm only drilling in my own spot. This is a great example of how much responsibility we have in this reality for everything we do. We cannot just be responsible for what we do for ourselves, but we need to know that they have a global impact, even that it doesn't make sense. As an example, in Kabbalah, there is the analogy of the sesame seed. And this example is beautiful because each and every deed we do in this reality, it creates an impact. Now, whether this reality is going to be judged in a good way or a negative way, it's an accumulation of all our actions in the mass. That's why we need the critical mass to tip the scale for the positive, so the world is not going to be destroyed because we are causing the destruction of this world. Believe it or not, there are no natural disasters. We're not separated from the elements, we're affecting the elements. If you want some interesting study, read about the history of Atlantis, why the destruction of this continent happened, because the negativity on this continent became so unbearable, they brought their own destruction. It's not some force majeure that affected them. So why the example of the sesame seed? Because it takes one person who can tip the scale with one action. And this person can be each and every one of us. That's why when we talk about we want to elevate each and every person, because each and every person can affect the tipping of the scale and to create critical mass. That's how important each and every one of us. So this is what about the teshuvah is about. So the teshuvah, I know some people who are raised in a Jewish or Israeli country, or in Israel or in Jewish families, the word teshuvah have a religious context, but it's not a religious thing at all. It's about restoring the energetic balances in this world. First of all, starting with our own negativities, reclaiming our responsibility, and also helping others. So that's what teshuvah is about. Let's go to verses number 90-91. It's very, very important verse. והמשכילים יבינו מסתרא דבינה דאיהו אילנה דחיי. בגיני הוא יתמר, והמשכילים יזהירו כזוהר הרקיע. בהי חיבורה דילך דאיהו ספר הזוהר. מין זוהרה דיימה אילאה תשובה. דילן לה צריך ניסיון, ובגין דעתידין ישראל למטעם מאילנה דחיי. דאיהו היי ספר הזוהר. יתקון בי מן גלותה ברחמי ויתקיים בהון. השם בדד ינחנו ואין עמו אל נחר. Translation. But the wise shall understand, since they are all from the side of Binah, which is the tree of life. For them it is said, and they who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament. With your composition of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which is the author of the Zohar, which is the book of the Zohar, from the light of the supernal ima called repentance. They do not require a test. And because Israel in the future will taste from the tree of life, which is the book of the Zohar, they will leave the exile with mercy. It will hold true about them that so Hashem did lead him, and there was no strange el with him. This verse is so important because, as my teacher says, it's all about the Zohar. Again, not about the book, but the illumination. Zohar means splendor. It's all about the light that comes, the wisdom that comes from this text, and what it's a good opportunity, again, to appreciate, to have the merit, not only to study that, but to share that live on Facebook, put it on YouTube, and many, many social media avenues. If there was one good purpose for creating that, I think it's for spreading the Zohar, which is a wonderful reason for that. So this verse is about increasing our connection to the teachings of the Zohar. Like we said, when we have appreciation, we can increase how much time and energy we invest in studying this wisdom. There's so much, and like we say, the rabbit goes as deep as you can go. It goes very deep, and it really depends on us how much we want to invest in that. Like we said earlier, the Zohar itself in this verse telling us that the Zohar is the light switch. The light switch to remove the darkness from our lives. The more you turn it on, the more you start to remove the negativity. You first start to expose it, to identify it, and you start to transmute the energy in your life and how you relate to other people. The Zohar shortens our karma. We are ahead of the game. The Zohar is kind of, in many ways, can shorten process. It's ahead of the game because many times you don't require the tests. Because in the universe, the system it works, when you reach a certain level, then you have to go through a certain test to see if you are actually qualified to move to the next level. Studying the Zohar itself eliminates a lot of tests. So it's a good hacking system, like we said. But again, I'm not saying I don't encourage you just do that because you want to make things just faster and quicker. That's not the mindset. The purpose of studying the Zohar is to connect to wisdom. But as a result, you're removing so much negativity, you don't have to go through all those tests. Nevertheless,
wisdom, yeah. Wisdom that brings power.
Brings powers to the test. Like if you see a hole, the test, if you fall into the hole, the test will be, can you get out of the hole? The Zohar wisdom will actually, I shouldn't go into the hole from the first place.
You can see the hole before you go jump.
Exactly. You won't even go to the hole. You just go around it and you keep going. Next time you don't even go near the hole. You know. So, like we said, we need a critical mass, and our personal work has a huge effect. Like we said, the sesame seed effect. So whatever study we do, it's important to share with others. If you live in a community and you're one of the people who study this wisdom, share with somebody else. Pass it on. And whatever value it brings to your life, share with others. That's the reason I'm doing that, because I've been studying that for a certain time, and I received so much teachings and wisdom and value that I'm inclined to share with others. That's the only reason I'm doing that, because of the value. And I hope that you are doing the same with other people. Now, another thing he talks about in this verse is, it says, the Israelites will get out, leave the exile in mercy. What does it mean, of exile? Exile, it means that there's separation between the lower self, the false ego, from source. So when we're getting out of exile, we bring in unity, like when we said there is perfect unity in Shabbat between the vessel to the source. So we attain that on a continuous level, because in Shabbat it happens once a week. But we want to be there constantly. That's what we call Mashiach. Mashiach is not a person. Messiah, it's a state of consciousness when there is continuous connection between us and source. There is not that separation of the lower self with the source. Another thing we're reminded here, we live in a time, I think each and every one of you know, we live in a time of extremes in this world. This time was already predicted thousands of years ago in the Zohar. It's called the times of Oy and Ashrei, times of extremes. Oy means woe, Ashrei blessed. Now woe are to those who live in the darkness. They think that this world has no hope. Some people think that this world has no purpose. People think that the creation is doomed. These are people who live in darkness because they don't have the merit, or they're yet to be exposed to these teachings of this wisdom, which is the good news. This teaching is the good news. And blessed are those who actually have the exposure to this news or this wisdom to bring that into their lives. So which side of extreme we choose, it's up to us. That's why we have the free will. But hopefully we can choose the path of mercy, so we can get out of the exile and we reconnect to the soul, to the purpose, and to the higher plan of creation. That's why we studied the Zohar. Now let's go to verse number 91. ואילנה דטוב ורע, דאי הוא איסור והיתר טומאה וטהרה. לה שלטה על ישראל יתיר, דהה פרנסה דילן, לה להווה, אלא מסתרה דאילנה דחיי. דלת תמן, לה קשיה מסתרה דרע. Excuse me. ולמה חלוקת מרוח הטומאה, דכתיב, ואת רוח הטומאה האוויר מן הארץ. Translation. The tree of knowledge of good and evil, prohibition or permission, purity or impurity, polarity, in other words, will no longer apply to Israel, since our sustenance will be solely from the side of the tree of life, where there are no contradictions, there are no paradoxes anymore. There are no contradictions stemming from the evil side, nor any strife, no difference stemming from the unclean spirit, as written, and also I will cause the unclean spirit to pass out of the land. Now again, when we talk about those polarities do not apply to Israel, again, I'm not talking about the land of Israel, I'm talking about Israelite as awareness of aligned with source. When we align with source, there are no those paradoxes. There's alignment. Like we say, you're aligning the wheel of the car, so you're staying on the path. Now, this verse is about reminding us to know the destination. Like, life has no meaning. Whatever meaning you assign to it is subjective, but life has a purpose. This purpose was defined, or it's been created by the intelligence that created life itself. So if you know the purpose of life, you know where you're going. So this verse is helping us to to connect to the spiritual GPS. I think each and every one of us in one point in our lives, maybe even sometimes, we feel like we're lost. We don't know where we're going. The Zohar, the wisdom of the Zohar, is giving us the recalibration to connect to the GPS. We know we have a purpose, and if you don't know your purpose, ask and source will tell you your purpose. That's why we said at the beginning of the class, make yourself poor, like you're nothing. You're nothing without life, the sustenance of life force of Creator. So if life force of Creator gave you life, it wants you to do something in this reality. You have a purpose. You matter, right? You occupy space. You matter, right? Like Einstein said. So the fact that you are here, Source gave you the life force to do something. You're already important because you are living by the virtue of being alive. It means you have a purpose. So if you don't know what it is, you can ask Source. But at least you know that your purpose is to be resembling to Source. That's the initial creation of a human being. That's very important to remember that. So like we said earlier, live by purpose. Don't live by meaning or by circumstance. Because meaning can change every day. Today, my purpose, my meaning, the meaning of life can be this, tomorrow it can be that, tomorrow it can be meaningless. So that depends on us, it's very subjective, but just remember there's a purpose. Now, when you talk about the tree of life reality is that when we know the seed level of creation.
10 to 10.
Huh?
10 to 10.
So we know the seed level of creation. Like again, I said earlier, we know the purpose of creation. We don't judge creation by the fruits. That's very important to realize because you don't evaluate things in this reality by what appears to your eyes. You evaluate things by the progress of things or by the development. Even more so, you understand the essence of something by its purpose or by the seed level. Why it's important? Because you can look at somebody and you say, oh, this person looks to me like this or like that, but you don't know what the person went through to be in this point in time. This person can look very happy, but these people, like, they just got out of like 10 years of hell, or they got of some, I don't know, whatever things they happened in their life. You don't know what they went through. So what appears to us, it's only the fruit. So you can only evaluate things when you know the development of something, and even more so when you know the seed level. And it's important because we need to know what's the seed level of our creation. That's always bring us to this realization. So let's continue. We have a couple more, very important ones. Let me prepare pages because I want to make another little diagram. Today I have a lot of drawings, which is good, right, Maya?
Yes.
All right. So let's go to, let me draw something before I explain that to you, because this is going to be a very helpful instrument to understand what I'm going to be reading. This is going to be the drawing of the tablets, like you asked earlier.
Oh la la.
The tablets.
The Moses is here.
These are not physical tablets, as we're going to learn.
Sure.
Just excuse me 1 second. I'm making just drawing here something.
Important drawing.
It's very important. This is going to explain the tablets. The allegory or the image of the tablets on a spiritual level, not just the physical thing.
Right, that's important.
Okay, let me read in the Zohar first. Verse number 1 from the Idra Rabbah, also Parashat Neso. Tanya אמר רבי שמעון לחבריה, עד אימת ניטיב בקיימה דחת צמחה, כתיב עת לעשות לאדוני, הפרו תורתך, יומין זעירין ומערי דחובה, דחיק, כרוזה כערי כל יומה, ומחצדי חקלה זעירין אינון, וינהו בשולי כרמה, להשגחן ולה ידעין, לאן אתה רזלין כמה דייעות. Translation: We were taught that Rabbi Shimon said to the friends, how long, like when I'm reading this verse, actually this is the time when Rabbi Shimon actually started what he called the Idra Rabbah, the congregation that he was teaching all this information he received, which is like receiving the Torah. Because Rabbi Shimon was like, he received the secrets of the Torah that happened 2,000 years after the receiving of the Torah in Mount Sinai. So that's happened also in this time.
The study group of Rabbi Shimon.
Yeah, exactly. Study group of Rabbi Shimon, exactly. Yeah. So, how long will we remain upheld by one pillar, meaning in the sense of the formless world? In Hebrew, it's tohu. You're by the word tohu means chaos, formless, in which the 7 lower sephirot were in a single stack, the one above the other. Rabbi Shimon wished to reveal to them the meaning of the grades in the world of correction, which consist of 3 pillars, the hidden meaning of the 3 columns, right, left, and central. It is written, it is time to act for Hashem. They have made void your Torah. The days are few, and the sin master, meaning the prosecutor, applies pressure. Every day the proclamation resounds for repentance, and the reapers of the field are few, meaning those who deserved the crop of the supernal field, Malchut, which are the understandings of the secrets of the Torah. They, even those who understood, are located at the end of the vineyard, which is Malchut. Even they do not pay attention, they do not know where they are going. Let's continue to another verse I'm going to explain. Verse number 2 from the Idra Rabbah. התכנסו חבריה ליבי עידרה, מלובשין שריין סייפי ורומחי בידכון, הזדרזו בתיקוניכון, בעיתה בחוכמתה, בסוכלתנו בדעתה. בחייזו בידין ברגלין, המליכו עליכון למען דברשותי חיי ומותה, למגזר מילין דקשות, מילין דקדישי עליונין, צוותי להו, וחדן למשמע להו ולמינדה להו. Translation: Gather friends to the chamber, dressed in shields, with swords and lances in your hands, which is the secret of the unifications to destroy the klipot. The klipot are the negative forces. Hurry with your corrections, meaning hurry to restore the 3 columns, Chokhmah, Bina, Da'at, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod and Yesod, with counsel, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, with appearance, with hands, which is the secret of Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet, and with legs, which is the secret of Netzach, Hod and Yesod. Appoint as a king over you he who has the authority of life and death to decree truthful words, words to which the supernal holy beings will listen and will be glad to hear and to know them. So this verse, which I'm going to close this class today, it explains to us the secret of the 2 tablets. What the 2 tablets are here according to the Zohar, the teaching of the secrets of the Zohar. We know that the 2 tablets, we have 5 and we have 5s, right? We have 5 what they call commandments and 5 commandments. But these are, first of all, in Kabbalah, there are no commandments. There are 5 advices. But those 5 are actually code names for the 2 Hays we have in the Yud Kei Vav Kei. We know we have two Heys. Hey in Kabbalah represents a vessel, which is a female. We have Yud K, which is male, 10 and 6, and we have 5, 5. This is the lower Malchut. This is the 5 of the Malchut. This is the 5 of the Binah. So the two tablets are the connection between Malchut and Binah, the 5 and the 5, represented by Hey and Hey. And how we connect between the two is by connection to Zeir Anpin. Zeir Anpin plus Malchut is the 1 plus the 6, the system of the 7. Our connection to the upper Sefirot is what allows realignment in the system of reality. Because if this reality is unbalanced, there is no flow between the Yud to the Hey to the Vav and the Hey. So when we connect to the Zeir Anpin, we connect to Binah. When we connect to Binah, when we connect to Chokhmah. Yud K, Vav K. So the two tablets are the 5 and the 5, which creates 10. The 10 commandments are actually 5 and 5. Also the secret of the Gemini. 5 and the 5, the two that are one. Does it make sense? Any questions? All right. So that will conclude our study for today. I'm very glad that you guys joined us today. This is very auspicious time to connect to the energy of the Torah and even more to the Zohar. I hope you really use the time wisely and listen to this recording again. And feel free to leave comments and ask questions. I have comments, observations. I really welcome them. And I thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Maya, for this beautiful set design. It's magical. Without you, you don't see Maya, but I see her with a beautiful smile, and I can enjoy the beauty right here.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us. If you have value in these teachings, I invite you to make a contribution. We have a donate page on the Mount Shasta Zohar page on Facebook. Your donations will be very welcome and appreciated, and will really help us to continue the study and to share more of the wisdom of the Zohar and the teaching of this amazing Kabbalah. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week. Shalom.
Happy Shavuot.
Happy Shavuot.
Immortality, mind over matter,
Mind over matter.
abracadabra, amen. Now.
Yes, thank you.
Let's
Thank
do
you.
it. Tonight, it's the night. Shalom.
Shalom. Thank you.